Yeah, as you rightly mentioned, that there's a conflict going on in the Ladakh region of India, and this dispute has its origins from the border dispute right from the time when the Britishers had left India. So the border was never demarcated. It was neither there was a border, marked on the map, and the maps were exchanged between the two countries that where exactly is the boundary. That was not done. Neither nor there are there any boundaries marked on the ground. There is no stones, or there is no other markings which indicate to each other that where is the extent of my boundary. So that is the root cause of the issues which keep happening over the period of time, and that is also one of the key reason why this time again this conflict is taking place in this area of Ladakh. And at the moment there is the standoff, as they say, is happening in four areas in the area of Pengong So Lake, the famous Pengong So Lake. Up north of Pengong So Lake is the area where the this four point of contact and the conflict is happening. Unfortunate incident 24 hours ago that there was as part of the de-escalation plans and de-escalation talks which had happened. There was a Lieutenant General rank officer led talks which were held between both the countries, after which it was agreed that the Colonel and Brigadier rank officers will go on ground from both sides and plan the de-escalation so that the de-escalation takes place smoothly. So during one of these de-escalation process in the area of Galwan Valley, in the night, the exact reasons are still unknown, but a conflict took place. And the Indian Army has lost 20 of its soldiers, including the commanding officer of the battalion there. And the reports which we are receiving from China, although nothing official confirmation, but from various sources which we are coming to know, is that they also have suffered casualties to the range of almost 43. So that is the state at which the current situation is there in this particular area.
Now, the Prime Minister Modi tonight has come out and said these deaths will not be in vain. How much pressure is he under to respond in some way?
Absolutely, there is a lot of public pressure or public anger, if I can put it that way, against these actions which the Chinese have taken. Because as I mentioned, that if this particular action was, in the initial phase of conflict, one can still understand. Okay, there was a clash between two petrol parties based on their perceptions of where is the border. But this happening while the de-escalation process was on, and what was the kind of trigger which happened, and we know that in that area China had made a substantial kind of a movement to change the status quo. Like what we use the term there, that there is a status quo maintained in that area as per the agreements between both the countries, so that there is peace in that place. But China had changed the status quo unilaterally, due to which this particular incident has triggered. And of course, there is a huge amount of public anger in India, and I'm sure the government will take a note of that.
So when you talk about China changing the rules a little, we've heard them setting up camp in areas that have been known as Indian territory, or certainly part of the Indian side of the border. But similarly, we've heard of India building roads, so creating tensions there. Do both sides see this as an important time to try and strategically advance their own ambitions?
Absolutely. See, what has happened was this particular areas where, as far as India was concerned, we were not too much focus was given in these areas in the past. But for over the years now, India has focused all her might and all her focus into the development of infrastructure, moving of forces, all those things in this particular area. So what has happened is that in all places, remote places, where erstwhile the Chinese used to come alone and Indians never used to be there. So what happened was now the Indian presence is there. So as the Indian presence increases, the number of contacts with the Chinese is likely to increase. And as the number of contacts are likely to increase, the conflicts will take place. So you are right in a way that because of the increased focus leading into the more development of infrastructure and such like things by the Indian side, and similar concerns by the Chinese, because they will naturally like to put their interests first. So that is why one of the reasons, again, for these sort of conflicts coming up time and again.
So with both sides being increasingly nationalistic as too, do you think it's important that perhaps a third party comes in and creates some clear delineation between these two sides, as it hasn't been resolved for so many years?
I really doubt such things are acceptable to both countries. There was an offer by the US also to mediate, which was refused by both countries. I don't think any scope is there for mediation by anybody from anywhere, whether it is the UN or any other nations, because I think both countries are they are sensitive to it. I think that is I don't see a mediation happening between in this particular case.
And Colonel Dinny, do you see it escalating to something more serious? I mean, we hear this particular conflict was physical fighting with sticks, that many of the soldiers fell because it's a very mountainous and inhospitable area. Do you think it could get worse? Could war break out between the two sides?
I really doubt that this can lead into a war, because honestly speaking, both countries, the signals which they've been sending since the time this conflict has started is that both countries do not want this to escalate into a full-scale war. And that is why I am still convinced that through all the negotiations, through diplomatic channels, for the political leadership at the highest level, we will be able to resolve this, and this will not escalate into a war, is my understanding of the situation.
Colonel Dinny, I really appreciate your insights. Thanks so much.
Thank you.